Hello and welcome to another Athens special of the Living Philosophy. So today we're on the opposite side of the city to Plato's Academy, and we're going to be looking at the school of his greatest student, the Macedonian philosopher Aristotle. It's a school of really interesting contrast. So as we looked at the last time, Aristotle spent 20 years at Plato's Academy, and Plato once referred to him as the muse, the mind of the academy. But the times being what they were, this admiration of Plato's wasn't enough for him to name Aristotle as his successor. For all his philosophical universalism, it seems that Plato was very much a man of his time and space. Instead of choosing one of the greatest philosophers ever, he opted for his nephew Speusippus to be his successor over the Macedonian outsider. Meritocracy, it seems, was not a part of Plato's ideal world. After the death of Plato in 347 BC, Aristotle left Athens for over a decade. The philosopher took the opportunity to go out into the world and study. This quest for learning took him through the Greek islands until he returned in 343 to his native Macedonia, having been summoned by King Philip to be a tutor to the prince of the kingdom, none other than the mythical Alexander the Great. This was a role he held for 7 years until the young prince ascended to the throne at the ripe age of 20. A year later, Aristotle returned to Athens laden with lucre. He had more money than many nations. The ancient accounts say he had as much as 800 talents, which, given that the GDP of Athens at the time was only 5.5 times more than that, was quite the sum of money for an individual. So Aristotle founded the greatest educational institute the world had ever seen. It dwarfed Plato's Academy in size and in calibre. At its peak, it had 2,000 students. Unfortunately, Aristotle's golden age wasn't fated to last. 12 years later, Alexander the Great died in Babylon on his way back from India, and there was something of a change of mood back in Athens. The Macedonians were never exactly adored by the other Greeks, and with the death of Alexander, this sentiment became rather more transparent. Aristotle fled Athens fearing for his life and returned to Macedonia, where he died shortly after at the age of 63. Meanwhile, the Lyceum passed to his student Theophrastus, who he had met while travelling in the Greek islands, who further enhanced the prestige of the school and was, in his own right, one of the great philosophers of the ancient world. Aristotle's school of philosophers were known as the Peripatetics, which means the walkers. And with little imagination, we can cast our mind back 2,300 years to when Aristotle would have been walking around these grounds, followed by an entourage of students who eagerly devoured the words of the great polymath, against the background noise, not of road traffic like now, but of the gymnasium, and surrounded by the beauty of the gardens. The Lyceum, like the Academy, was a site outside the ancient walls of Athens. While the Academy was a site sacred to Athena, the Lyceum was sacred to Apollo, specifically Apollo Lycaon, from which it gets its name. This was Apollo in his mysterious wolfish nature that was honoured across Greece, especially in Argos, where the cult formed an important part of that city's history. Much like Plato's Academy, the Lyceum met its end at the hands of the Roman general Sulla, who shut it down and shipped its extensive library to Rome, apparently losing 20% of it along the way. The Lyceum was, like the Academy, an important site long before it became a school of philosophy. Like the Academy, the Lyceum was a gymnasium, where boys and men would practice wrestling, boxing, and the Greek free-for-all pankration. It was founded either in the 5th century by Pericles or in the 6th century BC by Pisistratus. It's a place that comes up again and again in Plato's dialogues. Apparently, this is where Socrates loved to hang out, and after a night of non-stop drinking in the symposium, Socrates, the ultimate drinker, was sober as a judge, and instead of going home to rest, he came here to the Lyceum and continued business as usual. So even before Aristotle set up his school here, it was already a site that was famous for philosophy. And apparently ancient schools of philosophy like to set up near gymnasiums because this is where a lot of men and boys will be training, and so it's a great place to get recruits and to gain a little bit of influence. So when Aristotle was going to set up his own school of philosophy, it's no wonder he chose somewhere with this great location and its distinguished history. That's everything for this episode of The Living Philosophy. Next time we're going to take a quick look at the birthplace of Stoicism. Until then, I'd just like to thank Shane, Croissant Eater and all the other patrons for making this possible, for supporting the channel. And if you want to support the channel, you can head over to Patreon, where you can get access to videos, scripts, Q&As, get your name in the credits like these wonderful people. And yeah, if you have any thoughts, insights or feedback, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. Otherwise, I shall see you next time. Thank you for watching.